Hello everyone, my name is Batty and I'm the British Dragonfly Society Scottish recorder. I have been recording dragonflies now for over 30 years. I am particularly interested in the Azure Hawker. This talk gives an update on the recent situation for the Azure Hawker, from my own survey work, from that of others, and from the BDES records. The Azure Hawker is a small all-blue hawker. It has a northern distribution and is found right across northern Europe and in the alpine regions. It is at the edge of its range in Scotland and doesn't extend down into England. Adults emerge early in the year, from mid-May into June. It breeds in shallow pools, in upland bog pool complexes. The pools are often long and narrow, and some can be as small as 1 metre around. These are typical Azure Hawker pools. They have the drowned kitten sphagnum moss, also cotton grass. The substrate is brown silt, which is formed from the decaying sphagnum. It's not usually peaty. The British Dragonfly Society Atlas shows old records to 2012. Sites are mainly restricted to the north and west of Scotland, with one outlying site in Dumfries and Galloway in the southwest. The picture is quite confusing. Only a few areas appear to have a stable population, shown by the blue squares. This is where the Azure Hawker has been recorded from all recording periods. There are lots of up and down arrows, and the darker colours are being a later post-2000. Overall, there is an inferred decline. However, does this reflect real losses, or is it just that areas haven't been revisited recently? Conversely, gains could be due to more recording effort. Many records, however, are only for one male seen once during the recording period. Survey work was needed to help clarify the situation. The aims were to revisit sites where the Azure Hawker hadn't been recorded in the past 10 years, or the sites hadn't been revisited, to find new breeding areas where adults had been seen, and to investigate the potential for new areas where there was suitable habitat. From the technical equipment displayed, you'll gather it's a larval survey, the aquatic life stage. A colander was used instead of a net, which gets clogged up in the gungy pools. Larvae. Seeing adults can be hit or miss with the fickle Scottish weather. Larval surveys are less weather dependent and can be carried out throughout the year, not just during the short flight time. Breeding sites are also found. The Ashihoka larvae are reasonably easy to identify. They have a long, narrow labium, the mouth parts, seen in the bottom photo, and the larvae themselves have light dorsal spots down the centre line of the abdomen, seen in the top photo. Larvae are easily sorted from those of the common hawker. which has stripes or striped pyjamas. The Ashihoka larvae is usually lighter, more slender, and has those light dorsal spots. Sampling pools. Any Ashihoka larvae found were measured from head to tail and then released. Any other dragonfly species found were also recorded. There were two main survey areas, Glencarry and Loch Coich, just north of the Great Glen, and the Curragh area, which is south of it. These areas are shown on the map. Glengarry area is northwest of Fort William. It is a mountainous area with remnants of old Caledonian pinewood and forestry plantations. It was visited in early May 2018. Sites are between 300 and 350 metres above sea level. The site labelled the moor between Lochgarry and Loch Loyne in the east is next to the main road, so it was visited more often. It was the most productive site, with 57 larvae in 4 pools. At Tomdoon, in the mid area, adults had been seen in the woodland rides, and a breeding site was found nearby. New sites were also discovered above Loch Coich to the west. A total of 139 larvae were found in 27 pools. Curragh is further east, at the eastern end of the vast expanse of blanket bog known as Rannoch Moor. It's only accessible by train. There is no shortage of bog pools here, it is just finding the right ones. In cold, wet conditions in 2017, we only found 2 Azure Hawker larvae, but lots of common hawker larvae. However, that's Danielle and myself, struck lucky at the end of September 2019. Despite cold nights, the pools soon warmed up with the sunny days. Satellite images helped us to identify a good pool complex just north of the station, where, when investigated, 139 larvae were found in 9 pools. The next day, we met up with Alan, the Curragh Estate Conservation Manager and Stalker, and more importantly, his Argo cat. We were happy to experience the bumpy ride so we could explore distant pools. There are thousands of them, but we now had an idea of what to look for, and stopping at suitable areas, we were invariably successful in finding larvae. Alan was also happy to help with the guddling. We only sampled a relatively small area and found in total 231 Azure Hawker larvae in 17 pools. Curragh is an exceptional area. Batty, in the far northwest, is the best known and the most visited area for Azure Hawker in Scotland. Bob and Betty Smith carried out a long-term study of Azure Hawker here in the 1990s. They studied its development at Groody Bog. Eggs laid 1 year, overwinter and don't hatch until the next spring, and then development can take 3 to 4 years. The approximate growth rate is 5 to 18 millimetres in the first year, 19 to 27 millimetres in the second year, and 28 to 39 millimetres in the third year. There are obviously some variations dependent on the temperature and food availability in the pools. Larvae are fully grown between 34 and 39 millimetres and emerge in May or early June. The graph shows The larval lengths at the survey sites. The larvae are either at the end of their first growing season in September at Crower, the orange bar, or 1 year old in May at Glengarry and Lochcoik, the blue bar, and larvae grow just a few millimetres between these months because it's over winter. As both sites are over 300 metres above sea level, growth rate could be slower here than at Groody Bog, which is nearer sea level. The smallest larvae were 7 to 9 millimetres. And as you might expect, most larvae appear to be in the first year. Less in the second year, but still quite a few. And very few 3-year-old larvae at over 28 millimetres. There was only one at Glengarry, where it was too early for others to have emerged. Pie charts illustrate this more clearly. There are lots of smaller larvae, but very few larger ones that are likely to emerge in the spring. The little yellow slither are the larger ones. There was only 1% at Glengarry and 3% at Crower. But the Crower larvae still have to survive the winter. It's no wonder very few exuvia are ever found in Scotland. There is a very high mortality rate and very low productivity. You need a lot of pools to maintain a very small population. No doubt Crower is an exceptional area, and the vast area of inaccessible blanket bog stretches for 20 kilometres westwards. I often wish I could stop the train and get off where there are interesting looking bog pools. The main A82 North goes across the western edge of Rannochmoor and provides easier access. Needless to say, there are numerous pools here as well, and only a tiny fraction have been sampled. Small numbers of Ashihoka Larvae have been found here over the years as shown. In 1998, there were 20 larvae found in quite a number of pools. And in 2018 to 2020, 25 larvae were found in 17 pools. And that was just a fraction of the pools sampled. Larvae are rarely found in the same pools twice. Some look as though they have been dried out at times, and others are slightly deeper and more promising. Map shows the surveyed sites. I have covered most of the good sites, the red dots. However, there is some bad news. The Azure Hawker was not found at the blue dots. The Silver Flow in Dumfries and Galloway is an isolated site in the southwest, and it's of particular concern. Azure Hawker has not been seen here since 2016, despite intensive surveys, particularly in 2018 and 19. Also, the habitat here looked more degraded. A survey at Forsinard in Sutherland in 2018, after a dry summer, failed to find larvae, and more survey work is needed here. I will briefly mention the remote hill ground between Glen Moriston and Glen Affric, west of Loch Ness. This is where the Azure Hawker breeds. Adults are rarely seen in these high-level pools, but they have been recorded in the pinewoods of Glen Affric and Dundregan, quite a distance from the breeding sites. With additional survey work, Azure Hawker has been recorded from 57 hectads, 10 kilometre squares, since the Atlas, 18 of which are completely new, and 7 have been updated. Being a northern species, the Azure Hawker is more likely to be affected by climate change. and the potential loss of the southwest site illustrates this. The weather is more erratic now, with long periods of drought, and the small shallow pools where the Ashihoka breeds do dry out. The Smiths found that smaller larvae didn't survive the 1995 drought, and it's not known how long larger larvae can survive without standing water, even if the substrate remains slightly damp. Milder winters are also likely to favour the common hawker, which is starting to emerge much earlier now, at the start of June, overlapping with the Ashihoka flight time. Climate change policies encourage the planting of trees and forestry, and only recently these policies discourage planting on deep peats. Some sites will have been lost in the past. Onshore wind farm development is also progressing rapidly on the upland sites. Turbines are present in some of the Ashihoka breeding areas, and no studies have been done to look at their effects on dragonflies. On the plus side, bog restoration projects have created new pools, and the dragonflies too soon find them. Ashihoka has been seen at one of these sites. To conclude, survey work has found new strongholds for the species. It has underlined the importance of high-level bog pools. A very large area is needed to sustain a small population because of low productivity. Further survey work is needed, especially in the light of climate change and the loss of the southern site. A big thank you to all who have sent in records to enable this study. Please pass on in records for all dragonflies you see when you're out and about. Don't assume we know about them. And if you're lucky, you may see the Azure Hawker. Details are on the British Dragonfly website on how to pass on records. Thank you.